Okay, so let me go ahead and hide this up here. I'll mute mine. So today, I really wanted to spend the time on my 10-minute U, and Nan and Fred, please stop me if I exceed my 10-minute time frame, because I'm really, really excited and passionate about these topics. So I can go on and on and on about this, but I want you to hold me accountable to try to stay within the time allotted, and I will not be offended if you interrupt me. So today we're going to talk about comprehensive listening strategies, and I'm sharing this experience based on the background that Nan had shared with you, and then also from just my own experience as a leader and managing my own teams, and how we can think about strategies when it comes to listening to our people. So let's talk a little bit more about what that means. When it comes to listening, it's part of a broader employee experience at organizations. And as OD practitioners and IO psychologists, the evolution of what has been our roles, and possibly even with roles within human resources or HR, in my point of view, has evolved more into employee experience EX. And there's data to show the impacts of effective employee experiences. There's links to a source that I'm pulling some of this data from an external perspective, that it shows higher employee retention rates, higher employee engagement rates. There's revenue growth and increases in stock price. So there's a bottom line here when it comes to effective employee experience. It's not just something that's squishy and unmeasurable. It actually has some impacts when it comes to our businesses in which we're a part of and organizations in which we're a part of. So what does that exactly mean? How does this connect to listening? So when we think about employee experience, it's important to think about it from the perspective of the employee, centering it on the employee, and from a philosophical perspective, starting from that same place when it comes to employee experience and helping your leaders, your stakeholders understanding it. And so when we do that, this helps us amplify the voices of our customer, in this case, our employees, the people, the organizations to which we serve. And really takes on that role of using customer experience and channeling those best practices into the employee experience. So many of us might have heard about when it comes to the different services that we're a part of, whether it's like flying airlines or, being a consumer product, consuming products that you can buy at the store. You're often asked, what'd you think about the experience? What'd you think about the product? What'd you think about would you recommend this product to another person? Same philosophies when it comes to the employee experience and listening to what our employees want and need. So that's really the genesis of employee experience, is being able to deeply understand what our employees are feeling at work. Because when it comes to retention, when it comes to how employees view value and measure value, it's moved away from this concept of the stuff we offer to the feelings that we aspire to evoke at work. So it's moved away from kind of the historical mindset of things and objects and services and bells and whistles, lunches in the office, swag, things that are tangible, and more so to these guiding principles around feelings. Also, using the employee experience from an employee-centric philosophy helps us co-create together with the employees. And so there's less of this stagnant, this is the strategy of people, it is done. Put your hand, hang your coat up, you're done for the day. That constant iterative and evolving state allows for, when we focus on employees, to help co-create that experience together. So it's not just someone at the top, some phantom organization, phantom consultants that are shaping the employee experience. They're feeling like they have an active voice in shaping the work environment. And then lastly, another principle when it comes to customers is that we have this mindset that they're the closest to the problems and puts them at the center. So while it's important to have our leadership and our stakeholders who might be more on the senior side understand the work that we do. The voice at the end of the day who determines what's actually happening on the ground in real life is actually the employees. They're closest to the problem. So why wouldn't we hear and amplify those voices? And so this is a diagram that's shared from the Deloitte Workforce Experience by Design site. And it centers on some of the philosophies I talked about, where the feelings that I feel when I come to work helps shape what I feel the value of my employee experience is. Why do I stay employed at the organizations that I'm a part of? And some of these are the ways that we measure that value. So with that backdrop, from a philosophical perspective, employee experience is a way to deeply understand our employees, to increase retention, increase engagement, increase revenue, increase productivity. How the heck do we know what do they want? And so this is going to be my money slide, and I'll make it this a little bit interactive. So to employ a strategy of continuous listening is the only way to find out what our people want in real time. So I created a little spectrum, the left side being least continuous, the right side being most continuous. Any thoughts? Feel free to put into the chat or put yourself off of mute. Any ideas or thoughts of what are the different data points or vehicles for gathering information about what our clients or employees want in real time?
Employee survey.
Yes, employee survey. Excellent, excellent.
Focus groups.
Focus groups. Yep. Daily poll. Yep.
Town hall meetings.
Town halls. Yeah. It's a great one.
One-on-one in meetings with leaders and skip level meetings, as they're called.
I think along that same line, rounding.
Right.
Yeah. Do you want to say a little bit more about the rounding that you just shared?
Well, my background's healthcare, and organizations are starting to, or have been for probably 5 years or so, they've been rounding in the clinical setting at the point of care, at the point of, and working to hear the concerns and address the concerns of staff as they're trying to take care of patients. And I'm sure that's done in other settings, other industries as well.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, y'all are doing great. So this is not an exhaustive list, but here's some examples that are most often practiced, and layering them all as different channels. There are some that are mentioned that aren't even on here that help see all these different data channels as inputs for your continuous listening strategy. So rather than saying, oh, we need to do a survey in isolation, just administer it, we'll do it every year, it'll be fine. That actually is on the left side of that continuous strategy. And I've also, through informal channels, have heard that these annual engagement surveys are too slow. And a lot of companies are actually dropping the use of these because they're too lagging. They're the lagging indicators of things that are going on in the organization. So often it's too late to really be able to intervene in a timely manner. I heard focus groups someone mentioned earlier. Those are great ways to really get that real-time feedback. They take a lot of energy and time and thoughtfulness from the facilitator and also from those who are able to attend the time. So something to be thoughtful of. Pulse surveys. So these are kind of like more what I call like bite-sized chunkable surveys that are take a few minutes and are administered maybe on a monthly or quarterly basis that give you more of a real-time data point and are less of a burden on those participating in the survey. One I wanted to call our manager check-ins. So I think I heard like leadership one-on-ones earlier. These are actually the ones that are kind of what I'll call like middle line managers. Those maybe like between the most senior leaders and the ones that are more junior staff. These are actually great forums for collecting data if you provide the structure for how you want to collect that. So it's easy to have the one-on-one conversations, but then if you don't have like a set list of questions, you're going to get data from all different data points. And so having like a structured list of data points you want managers to gather in like performance review conversations or coaching conversations will help you collect data on a more consistent basis across those conversations. Another one that I wanted to call out is an interesting one. It's data scraping. And so this is where you actually go out externally to the marketplace and see what others are saying about your organization. So oftentimes these can be things like Glassdoor, LinkedIn, kind of those informal channels. Blind is like an app in your phone that often talks about like kind of like tech companies. That's another source that you can, if you have the resources, can carve out and scrape those and mine for some of that information from an external point of view. I know I'm running over on close to my 10, so I'm going to start to wrap us down. The last one I'll call it is asynchronous feedback. And this is something that takes 30 seconds or less for your teams to fill out. It's a pulse that's more frequent. That's usually 1 to 2 questions. And that'll be kind of the most continuous way to keep connected. A few last tips is be prepared to act on the feedback. Don't ask for it unless you're going to action on it, because it actually is important to show that connection between your feedback that's being given and how you're enhancing the employee experience. Make sure to survey often. Use the power of that data that attrition actually can be predictive, and you can uncover areas of concern and target the right interventions. And also know that no response is actually also feedback. When you're administering surveys, you're not getting any responses. That in and of itself is feedback. So with that said, I'm going to cut myself off now. Any questions or comments?